So, hello, welcome to the Gene Keys Pulse, where we're going to look today at the Gene Key where the Sun is transiting. And this is taking place on Soul Tribe Online. So you can subscribe to Soul Tribe and be part of the group. We have a little discussion afterwards. Okay, so the gene key of the day is gene key 53, and you would have been doing this in the meditation as well. So it's a very interesting one. It leads from the shadow of immaturity to the gift of expansion and the Siddhi of superabundance. So, those of you who are in my Venus group, we did a whole kind of year actually where the Venus star point was the programming partner for this gene key, which is 54. And that is the shadow of greed. So if you think of these two shadows being holographically linked, the shadow of immaturity and the shadow of greed, and it feels like that is really a super big dynamic in our world at the moment, where we see the desire for more leads to this very immature kind of aggressive behavior, sort of dog eats dog. We might say actually that the dog eat dog behavior is an immature behavior that we are transcending. And then we get into the gift of expansion and aspiration. So just feeling the difference between kind of greed and aspiration. It's like greed is very grasping, and I need it now. It doesn't think about anybody else, maybe only those close to it. And aspiration just feels like that expansive field, and it feels like it's visionary somehow, aspiration to me. And then we have ascension and superabundance. So just to share a little bit about my experience of this over a number of years, kind of really tuning in to a deep kind of feeling in myself of scarcity as a driving force. So scarcity around money, around my relationships, as a real kind of fear-based and again can be a very grasping energy, because scarcity and fear go hand in hand. And what has really helped with this is firstly tuning into the field of nature. So rather than seeing us as human beings and we're all trying to get our needs met, once it feels like our consciousness merges more with nature, we kind of more in the feeling of the ebb and flow of life. So sometimes we have everything we need, it's coming in abundance, and then we tend to get quite tired or I do anyway, and then the tide goes out, and then there's like, oh my god, what if the tide doesn't come in again? So just kind of learning to be with the ebb and flow of life and the way that cycles work. I mean, it sounds so simple, doesn't it, that if we lived in a more cyclical way, then it's like the force of superabundance is very natural. If we look at nature, we live on a superabundant planet. So in a way, there's no way we can't be in superabundance if we're tuned into, the fertility of our planet. And it's kind of ironic that it's the not tuning in to the fertility of the planet that then leads to kind of plunder and greed and destruction of the planet. So, so yeah, it feels like, if we could make the shift as human beings into this gift and siddhi of superabundance, that would be our ascension. So the first thing I say has really helped me with that is living in a cyclical way with nature. And the second thing is reconnecting to source. So we're going to be doing the wisdom prayer at the end. And that's one of the most powerful practices I've found for connecting to source, that somehow in this meeting of shadow and in the welcoming prayer, that this relationship is becoming stronger. And that's actually the intention of the welcoming prayer, is to strengthen our relationship to source and to be able to be present with whatever is happening. And in this relationship to source, it again feels like superabundance is natural. Like, why wouldn't we be supported completely and fully as part of creation? And the realization that what undermines that is the mind and sabotaging of success and the self. I don't mean successful in a kind of greed-driven way, but just success as a living human organism, that our creativity should just naturally flow and we should blossom like a flower or grow like a tree. And when we're not doing that, it's probably because we're doing something to ourselves that is stopping that, like a negative thought pattern, or a feeling of unworthiness is definitely something that's at the heart of me kind of not being in superabundance. For me, it always comes back to lack of self-love and self-worth, like some kind of deep muck in our DNA. It's like, wow, this goes really deep. And we could say it comes from all kinds of places, our conditioning, our genetics, but it feels like that is what is wanting to move with these gene keys. So what I'm going to suggest, let me say one little thing as well, that this shadow of immaturity is one that I've really used in my relationship as well. And I remember when I started this relationship 4 years ago, both of us having had unsuccessful relationships, we were like, maturity is our superpower now. This is the good thing about getting older. And it comes in a lot, because I think what trauma does is it usually throws you back into your younger selves. So it's good to recognize when a younger self has kind of taken over, and that the younger self isn't a mature self. So the inner mother and father can then come in and support that inner child. And that, in a way, for me, is source. Like, source is the perfect combination of mother and father, the qualities of mother and father in a kind of, the word that comes to mind is exalted way. So, so we can draw on this like inner God, goddess, mother, father, to support the immature child who is struggling to be in the world and be in relationship with difficult things. Okay, so for our welcoming prayer, We can summon up, we're going to summon up a raw feeling we have at the moment. So it could be personal, like a feeling of immaturity in relationship. You could summon up an area of your life where you feel that scarcity that invites immaturity and greed to kind of take over. Or if you don't have anything personal, you could think about the world, the people who are really driven by greed and creating havoc for everyone. And they are part of the whole, I guess, to see that. We like project onto them, but they are a whole part of a field, so we can always work with the field. Okay, so I don't think everyone has done the welcoming prayer before. So the first thing we're going to do is invite in this feeling, but all of us know how to transmute pretty quickly, but rather than do that, we're almost going to stand like, I sometimes imagine like my hands are here and the source is right there. So I'm like a doorway with the struggle in myself. And just to be with it for a minute and to just notice how the breath changes, the body tenses, where that feeling is of the shadowy material in the body. And then I'll invite you to breathe and to start releasing. But our first phase is welcoming, and then we release. And then I'll read the words of the prayer. And to just take those into yourself. Notice if there's any you don't want to take into yourself, anything that feels more relevant than something else. Okay, so let's do the mudra as well, actually. So the mudra for this gene key 53 of superabundance is the thumb, ring finger and baby finger. You'll have been doing this in the meditation, so you should know it. And yeah, it feels like kind of rabbit ears going up into the universe, or like a radar. So let's take a deep breath in together, breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. And on our next breath, really coming into harmony with the ebb and flow of nature. Learning to ride the ebb and flow of life and the coming and going of resources as natural. Let's take a breath to come into harmony together. As we sink into superabundance, we see that our only job really is to flower ourselves and to encourage others all around us to flower, because that is how the garden of superabundance works. And to compete or subtly undermine or poison our own or others' field is what destroys the superabundance. So breathing into our hearts to really feel that generosity. Gratitude is a massive energy field within superabundance. It's something of a miracle field where when we reach a certain frequency of expansion and superabundance, things start to just replicate themselves. And let's take a breath to fill Soul Tribe with this energy of superabundance too, the vessel and all the people here. Wonderful. So from this place of centered stillness, let's come out of the mudra for a moment. I want to bring to mind a situation, an emotional state where we feel the shadow of immaturity. And perhaps it's also related to greed in some way, its holographic partner. And to intensify the feeling, you're just going to hold this for a minute. Just feel what it's doing to your breath, where the tension, if there's tension held in the body, might be heat, might be cold, emptiness, could be any kind of sensation. Just reading your body. Holding a little bit longer, welcoming in the feeling. We might not welcome the experience that led to the feeling, but we can welcome the intelligence of our own feelings and emotions. And then let's begin just to gently breathe into the feeling. Let the breath be like the compassionate mother. The strength of the Father. As we stand at this portal, connecting to Source. Our commitment to be present with everything we feel, everything we are. And here in this doorway is the portal to love and the end of fear. superabundance and ascension lie in this doorway. So breathing deeply into your heart space, into your body. And read the words of the welcoming prayer, the release statements. I let go my desire for security and survival. I let go my desire for esteem and affection. I let go my desire for power and control. I let go my desire to change the situation. And Thomas Keating called these first three items the energy centers of the false self system. Our core wounding in these areas, together with our misguided search for compensation, drive most of the unconscious behavior, which is the source of our continuing human suffering. The fourth item, which is I let go my desire to change the situation, completely eliminates all doubt that one is using this practice to fix an undesirable situation. The goal is simply to stay present at this deeper level for the duration. Every moment of conscious presence actually takes place in eternity. So yeah, bringing ourselves back into presence, the body, ready to meet any challenges with the welcoming prayer this week. And I'm going to stop the recording. You can pop in and say hello.